I'd like to call the May 23rd Board of Education meeting to order. Recognizing that we have a quorum, we are missing two board members this evening. Has everybody had a chance to review the agenda?
Yes.
Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. As we do at the beginning and end of every meeting, we set aside time for comments from the public. Is there anybody that would like to come up and speak to the board? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to remind everybody that we do read our emails and appreciate receiving comments from people via that, so please continue to do so. Consent agenda, has everybody had a chance to look at that?
Yes.
Questions, comments?
No.
Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. I have to say this is a wonderful time of year, in part because the budget's done, and we get to start to present awards. And this evening we are presenting the CABE CAPS Student Awards. We have three that we want to. Is it three or four? I guess it's four that we want to present this evening.
Six. Gary has two.
Oh, okay. Do you want to start?
Go ahead. I think there are four CABE, two high school, and two middle school awards. CABE, for those of you who are not familiar with one of the many acronyms, is the Connecticut Association of Boards of Education. It's an organization our board is active in and promotes public education throughout the state. And one of their missions is to recognize outstanding students, and it's really a pleasure to have board members talk about some of the great young people who are here tonight.
Well, it's funny. This is it could look like we're taking credit for other people's work, and I don't want that to be the case whatsoever. We have a phenomenal staff here, and it's a tribute to that staff and to the supportive parents and the hard work of all the kids that we get to present these awards. The first one is to Miss, and I apologize if I don't pronounce it properly, Alida Sheffers. Is that correct?
Alida.
Alida?
Alida Schaefers.
Alida Schaefers. I'd like to present a CABE award for leadership.
Thank you.
There are write-ups.
Do we have write-ups?
I sent you the
I have them here.
You sent them?
Here's the next one.
Well, I didn't get the write-ups. I apologize. I've been traveling. I just got back from Minnesota. I was stuck in all of this air travel fiasco. Alida Schaefer is one of 8 Yellow's top students, has demonstrated incredible independence and fortitude during her 3 years at Middlebrook School. A wonderful role model, she bravely takes on every challenge presented to her. She is an A student who never fails to turn her work in, work which always displays her careful efforts and commitment to excellence. For example, in a reading-writing workshop class, she did an alternative project which required planning a lesson and teaching it to the class. Not only does she perform well in her academic subjects, she also shines in the stride areas. A member of the band, she drums up a storm and has been the recipient of a Connecticut Scholastic Art Award for Fantasy Self-Portrait. Do we have a copy of that? Mm-hmm. Love to see it someday. Furthermore, one of her drawings was recently selected in a contest co-sponsored by the Language Arts Department and the Media Center for the cover of the 8th grade summer reading list, which will be distributed at the end of the years to the outgoing 7th graders. Alida is always kind to others and is an active participant in her classes, constantly ready to engage in both classroom and group discussions. Her teachers marvel at her determination and hard work. She is reliable, responsible, and a paragon of integrity. A fine example for all of us. Thank you. Now this next award goes to Brandon Zhang. Did I pronounce it properly? Brandon is exploding onto the scene in 8 Red. He has found his footing and his voice and is so enthusiastic in using his wonderful talents to influence the hearts and minds of the rest of 8 Red. He is clear and bold in presenting his always well-founded and perceptive grasp of things, and it is obvious that his desire is to persuade and convince and not ever to merely explain. He is a sort of fuel for the rest of his classmates who, energized by Brandon's efforts, are going further and gaining more than they ever could have without the benefit of working with Brandon. Interestingly, Brandon is not a driving force because he is always charting the course. Instead, it is his ability to spur others to develop their own thinking to its fullest that more often than not makes the biggest difference. Brandon's influence is spread well beyond the 8 Red classrooms and hallways. He works encouragingly alongside his classmates. As an avid member of the Recycling Initiative at Middlebrook School, he participates with vigor and great talent in the Middlebrook Orchestra and Chorus, and is a member of the Western Regional Choral Group. And he has achieved recognition for his success in a number of mathematics competitions. Yes, Brandon is changing the landscape at Middlebrook, and it is exciting to consider what he will do when he steps through the front doors of Wilton High School. Perfect. David Gummins. He's no stranger to the Board of Ed. He's been here a couple of times before, and for those of you who don't know, he was in not only the senior play, but also Les Mis this last week, and did a wonderful job. There's more to David Gummins than just what you see on paper. David is an original thinker, intellectually curious, and well-rounded young man. David knows how to work hard and apply himself to the challenges before him in order to make his goals. He is a solid, disciplined student who never takes the easy route. As a freshman, he entered taking Wilton High School's honors humanities, English and history course, which is for the gifted and talented students, as well as the honors biology 3 and algebra 2-3. He continued in the advanced sequence of these subjects, and during his junior year, he added 4 advanced placement courses. He has maintained a 3.7 GPA on an unweighted 4.0 grading scale, and has been a member of both the National Spanish Honor Society, muy bien.
Gracias.
That's the end of the review, by the way. His grades have been a mirror image of his hard work, and his GPA is a testament to the value he places on his academics. David's scholastic commitment has benefited him as he is a National Merit Commended Scholar, granted the State Board of Education High Standards of Academics in April 2011, and the recipient of the Randolph College Book Award for Academic Achievement and Leadership Potential, as well as the Edna Jones Memorial Book Award, which is recognized by the League of Women Voters for demonstrating an enthusiastic personal interest in the democratic process, civil and government during our awards ceremony. David's teachers often have shared with me that he adds greatly to the class discussions and is genuinely interested in the subject matter. I can also attest to the fact he's been a presenter at the Tech Expo for a number of years, and I've learned a few things about Google Docs from him. David's day is packed with leadership activities, community service, and extracurricular activities, but I would like to highlight a few that I believe exemplify David. 1 week before school started, David was picking something up at school, and the idea of a morning television show was being bounced around by administration. Before another word could be said, he spearheaded the Wilton High School Morning Warrior. This show runs 3 times a week, and David is currently the producer, director, screenwriter, and anchor of the show.
There are other people involved too.
Future Letterman, perhaps? Let me see here. Lost my place. Another remarkable accomplishment of David is his ability to navigate through technology. David was selected by a district office to attend the Leadership and Learning Design Institute. David will be consulting on the redesign of our technology. If that's not eclectic enough, David is an active member. How long does this go? An active member in our Model Congress as president and has received numerous awards. He thoroughly enjoys being involved in all of his activities. Explo summer programs provided David with an opportunity to thrive, grow, learn, and self-explore through his middle school years. With his interest in staying connected to those who attended the Explo summer program, David created and conceptually launched a worldwide program called My Life is Explo Facebook group to bring together alumni of the Explo summer programs. There are now over 2,000 members worldwide and still growing. There is actually an Explo Spirit Day. What is impressive about David, is though this isn't enough, is his gift to make all of his extensive activities look easy. David was named top 50 most influential people in Wilton, and now we all know why. David Gummins is a happy young man with high expectations, strong values, and a solid work ethic. Congratulations. You know, these aren't short. This is wonderful. Gemma Gambardell. Did I pronounce that properly?
Yes, you did.
Is a polite, genuine, and respectful young lady. What has impressed us most about Gemma is her ability to push through regardless of the obstacles she may be facing. She's level-headed and committed to her academics. Gemma has a solid and demanding transcript, and as a freshman was recommended for honors science and added an additional course in independent study, an additional course which is taken above the required course load. In video production, are you working with David on the... Wonderful. Gemma's independent study solidified her interest in the film and video field, and she has increased her course load each year by including an independent study. As a sophomore, she continued in the advanced sequence, adding chamber singers and skipping a level in English. She has pursued a 4-year study of the Spanish language and added several advanced placement courses. Over the past 2 years, Gemma has experienced some medical issues which caused her priorities to shift by necessity, affecting her ability to perform at her optimal academic level. She has persevered through these medical challenges, and at the conclusion of her junior year, she has maintained a 3.68 GPA on an unweighted 4.0 grading scale. Gemma was inducted into the Spanish Honor Society based on her performance and work ethic. We are proud of her tenacity and academic record. Gemma is a young lady who puts her time and effort into what she enjoys and what is important to her. What has most impressed us is Gemma's intuitiveness in the area of film and video. As a freshman, she knew that this was a field she wanted to pursue, and her teacher shared with us that she had a gift in this discipline. She has been extremely successful and has earned the following awards. First place, Greenwich Youth Film Festival. Music Video Wilton High School Video Production Sweeps Award winner 2012. Westport Youth Film Festival participant 2011. Wilton High School Video Production Sweeps Award winner 2010. World Language Week 10th grade Spanish 4 video contest winner 2011. World Language Week 11th grade Spanish 5 video contest winner 2012. In addition to video film, Gemma's enthusiasm and passion for arguing her side of an option has led her to become a strong member and captain of our high school debate team. She has attended several summer conferences and has earned numerous accolades, including Connecticut Debate Association January Tournament First Place 2009, Connecticut Debate Association January Tournament Third Place 2009, Connecticut Debate Association December Tournament, Connecticut Debate Association 2010, State Finals 5th Place, University of Pennsylvania Debate Tournament, Octave Finalist 2011, Yale Osterwise Debate Tournament, 4th place, 2011. Princeton Debate Tournament, Double Octave Finalist, 2011. Connecticut Debate Association. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm going to. Yale Invitation Debate Tournament Quarterfinalist, 2012. Wilton High School Debate Team Underclassman of the Year, 2011. She's taken her leadership skills and been involved in student government as a class officer in her sophomore and junior years, and now as a senior is on the Student Government Executive Board as secretary. In addition, Gemma has been a Poetry in Motion board member as well as the co-chair of School Health and Wellness Committee. She's a fine young woman who has drive, enthusiasm, intelligence, and for whom we have the utmost respect and awe. Congratulations.
The next set of awards that we're going to give out tonight are sponsored by the Connecticut Association of School Superintendents. It's an organization that supports education in the state of Connecticut and is a cheerful group of people, as you might imagine. The award that we're giving tonight, we're giving 2 awards for outstanding achievement, are based on 3 criteria: community service and service to others, academic prowess, and leadership service to the school and community. And I think in a moment you're going to hear why the recipients were selected for this award. One of the things that Mr. Likely said, it's a wonderful time of year, and one of the things that's nice having a lot of our faculty here is that many of them remember many of these students when they were in various stages of our public school system, and they're very proud to see how you've continued to grow and all the things you've accomplished. So I think it's a great credit, and I think we all feel very, as Mr. Likely said, very proud of your achievements, and we bask in your glory. The first honoree tonight I'd like to have her come forward is Paige Wallace. Good evening, Paige. And again, these were people that we're honoring tonight. We were hearing about Paige Wallace from the time that she was at Middlebrook and before, I believe, and people saying, wait until they, as they said about Brandon earlier tonight, and Allie, wait until they hit Wilton High School. So I think they have certainly lived up to the expectations that many had for them and to their own, I hope. Paige, accomplished, passionate, and intelligent are 3 words that describe the exceptional and extraordinary student and person that Paige Wallace is. I might add nice to that as well, and kind. At Wilton High School, she is a member of both the National Honor Society and the Spanish Honor Society. This year, she is serving as both Vice President of the Student Government Executive Board and as a Senior Class Officer. Paige has served for the past 2 years as a class officer of the junior and sophomore class. She also chairs the prom committee and is an important member of the debate team. Paige is also a member of Peervention, Bon Ami, and Key Club, and was captain of this year's Women's Ski Club. Paige, I may need you to come and get some Key Club people to come Monday to help pancake breakfast. Be there 7 o'clock, no problem. No pressure. Paige is a 2013 National Merit Finalist and the only Wilton High School finalist this year to win a National Merit Scholarship. We have, I believe, were there, Mr. Sanzo, 8 finalists this year, I think?
8 or 9.
8 or 9. And it's the best of the best. I mean, that's a very elite category to be a National Merit Finalist, and to receive a scholarship puts them even in a higher class, and it's such a terrific honor to be named a National Merit Scholarship winner. She was a 2012 Governor's Scholar for the state of Connecticut, and as a sophomore, Paige was the recipient of the Hugh O'Brien Youth Leadership Award. And as a junior, she received the Harvard Alumni Book Award, along with many gold medals and other awards in Greek, Latin, and Spanish. Paige is a student representative, this is again a huge honor, on the Connecticut State Board of Education, and is a docent and student program leader at the Wilton Historical Society. Paige will be attending Harvard College in the fall. Paige, congratulations. Our second honoree this evening for the CAPS Outstanding Student Award is Sahib Sani, and I'd ask Sahib to come forward. As I was coming in, I was teasing Sahib and Gemma about, oh gee, it's nice that you just showed up at a board meeting to see what they're all about. And They confided in me that they're actually here as members of the Mr. Sanzo fan club. And they affectionately refer to Mr. Sanzo as Suit Man. That's a term of endearment which can be given, having been a high school administrator, that's probably preferable to some of the other things that might be called in these jobs from time to time. Sahib, again, motivated, responsible, and talented, and also a fabulous young man, are just a few words to describe Sahib Sawhney, an outstanding student, volunteer, and person. Sahib is treasurer of the student government and helps produce the Morning Warrior news show. He is also involved in Model Congress and has served on the World Language Festival Steering Committee. He is currently a member of the Student Review Board for the district. He has also been heavily involved in concert choir and madrigal singers. Sahib has worked at a sports camp counselor at Miller Driscoll and volunteers weekly at his temple. Sahib likes to help people. His family founded and runs the Baha'i, Kanaya?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Charitable Trust, a nonprofit organization. Sahib travels to India in the summer to help with fundraising efforts for this and his family's new project, building a cancer hospital in northern India and establishing a college of nursing affiliated with the hospital. Sahib will continue his studies in the honors program at the University of Connecticut in the fall. Sahib, it's a great honor to present this to you.
Thank you.
What an amazing group of students. Thank you for all of your efforts and for making not only Wilton proud, but making us look all the better. Appreciate it. We will let you leave if you don't want to stay for the rest of the meeting at this time. Although you are welcome to stay. We have some riveting topics tonight. Wait, we have a financial report. Can't we bring back evaluations again? Has the state changed the plans again?
Cut the funding off.
They cut the funding off.
Yeah, they did.
They changed everything except the deadline.
Wait just a minute for Dr. Richards to come back in. While we're waiting for Dr. Richards, I don't have a formal report to present this evening, but I couldn't help reflect this past week over the tragedies of the tornadoes that our country faced, and think about the heroism on behalf of the teachers and staff of those schools. And when you compare that and join it with what happened at Newtown, it makes you remember yet again how valuable and important these individuals are to our children and to our community, and how much we as a community appreciate our teachers and our administrators. So I want to take a moment and think about those who've lost loved ones in both of those events, and also say thank you very much to those who work along for us. Rich, could you go out and tap Dr. Richards for us? Thank you. What's that? Yeah, that's true. For those of you who can't hear, Molly said he'd much rather be with the children. I wonder if he's got his report here. Maybe I'll give it for him. But I can do it faster. Does he not have one? Okay. Well, recognizing that he doesn't have a report this evening, I'm going to move on to. We just passed on the superintendent's report. I'm informed you don't have one.
In the interest of a very long agenda, I will forego the opportunity this evening.
Well, thank you. Committee reports.
No. I will just invite anyone who would like to kick off their holiday weekend to attend the restroom renovation meeting tomorrow afternoon at 3:30 in this room.
How do you follow that? K-12 mathematics program. Mr. Canty is coming up to review and discuss the progress on that. And this is the whole other half of our audience. Thank you for coming tonight.
Well, it's my pleasure to be joined this evening by our K-12 instructional leadership team in the area of mathematics. Quick introductions. We have Joe Schultz, Carol Maxwell from Miller Driscoll, Kate Stolfert, Cider Mill, Nicole Strauss from Middlebrook, and Dave Delzell and Suzanne Marsan from Wilton High School. I also want to acknowledge, of course, the work of our administrators in overseeing our curriculum, including our math program, certainly the work of our principals. And I did want to point out, I guess Mr. Sanzo is getting some airtime tonight. I wanted to acknowledge his work in helping to coordinate the evolution of our math program at Wilton High School. As you know, we greatly appreciated the board's support of the adoption of a new K-8 math program a year ago. Next month, actually, the Math in Focus program, which is the Singapore Math by Marshall Cavanaugh's program. You may recall when we introduced that program to the board, we talked about how the approach would support best practices in mathematics instruction, would provide a rigorous learning environment, support differentiated, personalized instruction, was in line with cutting-edge technology tools in terms of supporting math instruction, was vitally important in aligning our math curriculum with the implementation of the Common Core state standards, and was vitally important in helping to prepare our students for modifications in upcoming state assessments. That approach and support again led to an intensive effort on a very ambitious timeline to introduce and implement the program to our school community. We began immediately with professional development efforts at the end of the school year, which continued throughout the summer. We communicated with our parent community about the adoption at the start of the school year. We also hosted parent information sessions in the fall for our parents, and continued with extensive professional development for our teachers throughout the school year. The board may recall that we implemented the program fully in kindergarten, grades 3 through 5, in grade 6, and in selected courses in grades 7 and 8. The program will be fully implemented next year as we add grades 1 and 2 to the mix. At the same time, we've been working very hard to be sure that our high school courses are being updated to align with the Common Core state standards. And the board may recall that last June you supported textbook adoptions in the area of algebra to support that work, and we'll be coming forward to the board next month with adoption requests in the area of geometry. So tonight, we'd like to just present a brief overview of our progress, our year one progress. So I've asked each of the instructional leaders to just give a brief overview of their implementation plan, the success stories, some of the challenges we're facing, and next steps. So we'll run through a story for each school, and then we'll be happy to take your questions.
We're going to start with
the
lower
Mill.
grades?
Actually, we're going to start with Cider Mill, grades 3 through 5, as that building fully adopted the program, and also because Kate volunteered to go first.
I think the easiest way to help you understand how we implemented the program at Cider Mill is to take you back to last June. By last June, we already had a lot of what I'll call positive anticipation that had built in our school because we had piloted bits and pieces of Math in Focus at all the grade levels. And our teachers had heard from those who had piloted about the strong foundation in numeracy, the alignment with the Common Core, the emphasis on problem solving, the workshop model structure, many, many things that had gotten them excited. So in June, all of the teachers were able to receive our first training from Math in Focus instructors. And by the time those instructors arrived, the energy in the building was palpable. And we were fully ready to absorb everything they were ready to give us. Additionally, we had been able to order the materials well in advance so that by the last week of school, materials were on site. And just being able to touch, hold, and see all of the various components of the program was very exciting for teachers and also very comforting. It made them feel like they had time to digest material before they had to take on the implementation in their classrooms in the fall. I think one of the challenges that we knew we had to face before school started in the fall was implementing a brand new program simultaneously across 45 classrooms of 3 grade levels. And so over the summer, what we did was we built a team of experts, and we called them expert coaches, so that for every grade level, for every team, which would make roughly a 1 coach to every 3 teacher ratio, we built an on-site expert to support the whole the building and the teachers as we rolled the program out. The on-site experts also have the teachers digest what was an almost overwhelming variety of material, which was one of the huge strengths of the programs, but also one of the challenges. We have new technology resources, we had differentiation resources, we had a new workshop model. There was just almost more than anyone could take on at any one time. And the coaches were able to help us sort through that material, By the time teachers returned in August, the coaches were feeling really ready, and we were able to dedicate some of our August staff development time, a lot of our August staff development time, to math, both with the coaches meeting with teachers and the teachers practicing using the material in front of the coaches so that they felt comfortable delivering in the classroom. So that way we built the foundation for having assured experiences across all classrooms at all grade levels. As the year rolled out, everything went really smoothly at the beginning of the year, almost more smoothly than I could have imagined, and we were all very happy with it. And as the year rolled out and we were ready to take on more, we were lucky enough to receive additional training from the Math in Focus experts who came back to teach us about many, many things, bar modeling and problem solving, the calendar math sort of supplemental program called Everyday Counts that we use outside of the regular math block, but to provide additional reinforcement of key concepts across all grade levels. They also talked to us later on about differentiation and assessment, which are things that we are still going to be working on next year. We'll hear those in some of our next steps. So that's how things rolled about through January and February. And I would say that by the time we've gotten to this point in the year, our teachers are all very excited about next year because they're already envisioning how we can use the program so much better in its second year. And that is something I'm really happy to feel in the building. We did have some challenges, and we struggled a bit with what I would consider to be 2 major things. One of them was teaching a mastery program directly from a spiraling program with full-on implementation in 1 year. We anticipated that problem, of course, but we didn't know quite how we would handle every single nuance of it as we progressed. What we ended up doing, and a lot of the technology tools that the program has enabled us to do this smoothly, was having teachers step back a grade level or 2 when they introduced new concepts so they could build the foundation that had been missing since our students have not come up through the program. That problem and our addressing it created what I would consider our second major problem, which I think we're all going to be talking about, which is pacing. Yeah. Pacing needed to be adjusted significantly. There was no way that we were going to finish the entire program at each grade level in the first year, and we knew that. The Math and Focus trainers had all told us that we should set as a goal finishing half of the program. And indeed, I'm happy to report that across 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, we will indeed finish exactly half of the program, and probably by the end of next week. And then we will spend the remainder of the year going back and reviewing and reinforcing so that our kids have a really solid foundation for year 2. So everything has gone, considering the challenge that we took on, I think things have gone very, very well this year, and we're very happy with the program. It has all of the positive attributes that we thought it would. The challenges have not been overwhelming, and they are mostly as we expected to meet. So we have not had any huge bumps in the road. Next year, our plan feeds directly from our experiences this year. At the forefront of our plan is a commitment to utilize all of the components of the program from day one, which we were not able to do this year. We rolled pieces of the program in gradually. For instance, we didn't do the Everyday Counts calendar math program for the first couple months of school. So this year we'll be ready to roll everything out from the beginning. We also plan to increase our pacing. We will complete more chapters at each grade level. It's still unlikely that in year 2 that we will finish the whole program, but we will get significantly further than we did this year. And we will, at Cider Mill, continue to keep that expert team of coaches in place because that's been so integral to our success with what we rolled out this year. And we also have been working and piloting some updated progress reports, call them report cards, because the new program is very much aligned with the Common Core, and we've been working on providing feedback to parents and students that fits with both the Common Core and the program. And we plan to continue that effort next year. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll go to kindergarten.
We were in a unique situation because we only implemented Math and Focus completely at the kindergarten level. There were selected chapters that we used in 1st and 2nd grade that would help the transition for next year. At the kindergarten level, we had a little bit of an advantage because where they didn't have the prior knowledge, our little ones coming in, we were able to set that foundation for them. Again, it's as we went through, we said, "Oh, if we only could start again." And and I must say, the training was significant. I mean, it made such a significant difference. I've been in Wilton many years, and by far it was the best professional development I think we can say for as we adapted a new program, and we thank you for that because it really has made such a difference. The Math and Focus people have been incredibly professional. They know the material so well. They came down very often, at least for kindergarten, you'll have a presenter and they're not used to how kindergarten children learn. And it was wonderful to have these people that really knew how to help us implement that with our youngest learners. Again, some of the challenges that, the strengths of it were that I think numeracy was introduced at such a concrete level for our really these children are manipulating, they're writing, they're interacting with each other. We have little math groups that throughout, our math program, which is just great. I think they're going to be really prepared for 1st grade. I think the 1st grade teachers, as they introduce it next year, will be very pleased with the knowledge that our kindergartners will be, leaving us with. As far as pacing, we got a little bit farther. Again, the Math and Focus people were great as far as going through the chapters. These are the key chapters that you want to make sure that you hit, really have secure knowledge with the children. Again, we're teaching them mastery, and this is just something that's so important for these children, as all the children are. I think the calendar counts is something that we were using the interactive whiteboards for that, and we realized that we really needed the concrete materials, and again, we were able to get those at the end of the spring. And so they will be fully implemented next year for our kindergarten and 1st and 2nd grades. So, as we go forward, I think we're looking at, again, doing a better job with our pacing. Things that we did do is at the kindergarten, we did align our progress reports so that they are with Math and Focus and the Common Core. And so we have that in place, and we will be using that this June as our children exit. So we'll have a good database as the children go on to first grade. And as we go forward, this is something that we're going to be working on for first and second grade. Again, aligning that Math and Focus and the Common Core so that our progress reports reflect that. So really, and next year I think our challenges will be in first and second grade. I think what's so important as we move forward is that we can get as much training for our first and second grade teachers as we have in the other grades. I know as, budgets and things like that, but if that can be implemented, I think that's really important for our first and second grade teachers. We did have Math and Focus for 2 days in May, and again, it was a very positive, and you want to speak on that?
Yeah. In second and first grade, we just did a few selected units to help prepare our kids for the next year. And, we kind of just jumped into it without having the training. And like Kate had said before, there's such a great amount of materials that come with the program. So we're feeling a little bit overwhelmed at how much stuff that was there for us to use. So I think being able to have that training now, oh wow, it was very eye-opening to see how we can really utilize those materials as we jump into it full go next year. The training was definitely very beneficial.
And
Now I offer middle school.
at middle school, we started our work back in June, the same as the other schools, and spent a lot of time over the summer really looking at how we were going to address some of the pacing issues we knew we'd face at the middle school level, especially knowing that the program we were jumping into, not only switching from the spiral to the mastery, but also now expecting the kindergarten through 5th grade materials. So we knew at Middlebrook we had probably even more of a challenge because it's that many more years of build-up with the pacing issue. So we knew going in that there was going to be some significant, we call it gap filling, that would need to be done. And with the one of the strengths of the program is that even at the middle school, we have access to the kindergarten through 5th grade materials. So we were able to use a very similar approach that each grade level had access to be able to use all of the materials from lower grades, or at least see how those concepts were developed to mastery so we could implement it and kind of teach it that way to adhere to the mastery-based approach with that. What we really found is that starting on 6th grade, we've done a great job with implementing. We've done the 6th grade level course in the Math 6, the grade level classes, and we've adopted basically the 7th grade course in the advanced classes, which used to be the transition math classes. 7th grade, we were able to use the 7th grade, the Course 2 book, both in our regular Math 7 class as well as our advanced class. The pacing is just quite a bit different there, that the grade level classes were in the same place. We were able to get halfway through the program. The advanced math class in 7th grade has been able to get through about 3/4 of it by the end of the school year. So it's a pretty significant difference with that. And then in the 8th grade was what we saw that the initial plan was just to use the grade level 8th grade material, which is course 3. We did discover very early on in the fall that with the amount of gap filling that had to be done, it was too significant for the grade level in 8th grade. And so we were fortunate enough to be able to get enough copies of the 7th grade book for there, which actually is a very challenging course in and of itself. So that was how we were able to kind of meet that need of those particular group of students. For this, the strengths we've really found at the middle school level is really the variety of ways that it approaches the math at the middle school level. That it still has manipulatives and the concrete materials even for 7th and 8th grade and algebraic topics, which has really seen we've really built a much better understanding and foundation for some of the significant algebraic concepts with the solving equations, integer concepts, things like that. It really is heavily into visual examples and modeling of these concepts as well, which has been a significant, we think, change and improvement from the previous program, because it's really given the kids the opportunity to not only be able to see the steps behind it, but really to see why it works and come up with different approaches for it. One of the other strengths at the middle school we've really seen is that it encourages multiple methods to solve the same problem. So for any given situation, the program itself may even show 3 different ways to do it, and then give the opportunity for kids to discuss, can you come up with other ways, to really allow for great flexibility in thinking at the middle school level, which we've seen really has been an impact with our kids. Our students have become much better kind of critical thinkers, being able to problem solve. We've seen a significant improvement in their problem solving abilities as we've implemented the Math in Focus program, which has been terrific to see. It does also follow, even in the middle school, the workshop model, so it really does encourage a lot more of the good discussions and group work together, figuring out how you can come up with ways to solve a problem and understanding that flexibility and perseverance, the first method might not be the best one, so maybe we can try a different approach. So we've really seen some great math discussions. I think one of my favorite comments from kids when we've asked them about it is they like that they can now see what's happening kind of behind the curtain in math, is how the sixth graders were putting it. They now not just know how to get the answer, but kind of why the math works the way it does. Some of the challenges we've seen have been the very same thing with the pacing. The pacing has been a significant concern at Middlebrook, partly because of the gap filling needed to be done, also because of the CMTs that we still had to review for this year, that at the middle school level, the Common Core topics and the CMT topics really don't align at all. So there had to be some CMT work that was outside of the Math in Focus program. We also are the Math in Focus is designed for a 60-minute class, and our classes are shorter than that on the average day. So that's something that we're still working on and figuring out how to maximize the use of our class times that we do have, and that's something, next steps that we're still continuing to work on, look at over the summer on what we can really do to make sure that we're getting as far as we can into the program to be able to, within another year or two, hopefully finish each course as we go through. Some of the other next steps looking forward is this year we left the algebra and geometry courses as is with the University of Chicago textbooks, and so next year we're looking at how to incorporate the Common Core standards into our algebra and geometry classes as well.
Thank you.
Well, it raises a lot of dust to take 8 or 9 courses and turn them upside down and redesign them and adopt new textbooks and adopt a new philosophy and so on. Last time we did it was 1990. I have to get historical for a moment. It took years for the dust to settle during that. Math teachers like mastery. The dust is settling much faster this time. Not only that, we have technology now. We have curriculum maps that we can refer to. We have technology tools in which to reach kids in all different ways. The dust is teachers have to redesign themselves. We have to rewrite curriculum. Vertical integration issues arise. Adaptive issues arise. That is, kids have to switch philosophies and textbooks midstream of their educational career. We have all those things happening, but what seems to be happening is that we're taking them on pretty quickly. We are raising the level. You will hear some cries and screams about that because that's a painful process. The weaknesses that have come forth, perhaps, the challenges, I shouldn't say weaknesses. The challenges are we've taken a 2-year Algebra 1 sequence, weak algebra, and made it into 1 year, which is tough for those kids, but necessary, so that they meet the Common Core. We've taken regular Algebra 1 and we are going to take Geometry and Algebra 2 and raise them up to Common Core standards, which is quite high. It's halfway to honors level. We've already done the courses after that. That is, we've adopted the same textbook for analysis and discrete that we've adopted for an Algebra 1, a good textbook series. We've discovered that kids can do it, given the right amount of urging and so on. Kids actually can do it. They're being successful with the courses. We were worried at first. When the year started, you saw worried looks. Now you don't see them. We're getting them there. We have some growing pains to do. Our dust still hasn't entirely settled, but I think we'll pretty quickly. Let you fill in any holes.
I don't know if there are any, but I've had the honor of teaching both the levels of Algebra 1 this year, so I got to see how the students reacted to both the courses. We did horizontally align the curricula so that when there was some movement, and there was this year, between the Level 2 course and the Level 1 course, that they still received all the topics that were important to the Common Core state standards. So that's in place and has gone quite smoothly, I think. And I will say the students have risen to the challenge in both of the courses, which is really nice to see. I think they've adapted quite well, actually.
One last word. We expect as the middle school progresses, well, the lower schools and the middle school progresses, that our task will get easier.
So if they do a really good job, you have less you have to do.
If they do a really good job, then I can retire and go home happy.
Wonderful. Do you guys have any questions?
If I may, Mr. Lakely,
please,
just a
Mark.
few closure comments around the assessment question. We're obligated under the mandate to have in place a fully implemented Common Core state standards curriculum in the 13-14 school year, and we'll be there. So we'll have hit that mark on a very ambitious short timeline. Very proud of our leadership team in overseeing that work. As things stand now, as we've told the board in prior presentations, we're anticipating that the new state-mandated assessments that are Common Core aligned will be administered for the first time in the spring of 2015. We, this spring, opted to participate in a state practice exam. And the primary driver for that participation was to get a sense of the impact of that approach to testing in the area of mathematics. So students in grades 3 through 8 and grade 11, cohort of grade 11 students, cohorts in the lower grades participated in that practice assessment. And we've learned some valuable lessons about that approach that we're still trying to iron through. We'll update the board on that in the fall. Recent guidance from the state suggests that there may be, we're not quite sure yet. Guidance from the state is sometimes difficult to navigate, but there is some sense that there could be a fast track to implementing Common Core aligned assessments as early as the spring of 2014, which is big news to us, and we're not quite sure where that's going to be. The good news is we'll be ready. If we have this traditional CMT approach, capped approach in 2014, we'll be ready. If indeed there is a modification into assessments that are more highly aligned with the Common Core, we'll be ready. So I just wanted to give the board a brief update on where that issue stands at this point.
There's a meeting, I think I shared with the board earlier in the month, the fact that the commissioner had been entertaining 3 different approaches that Tim just outlined. And there is a meeting of a few superintendents from each of the regions in the state with the commissioner on the 20th of June, at which time we may or may not know what the assessment for 2014 will be. So as Tim said, it's a very challenging waters we're negotiating right now, and the policy swings, as you've heard on our teacher evaluation program and some other areas, are can flip wildly in short periods of time. We, as Tim said, I think our approach, and I couldn't agree more with the quality of the people and other colleagues saying before you, we'll be ready whatever the commissioner decides to do on June 20th, hopefully.
We'll be happy to take any questions.
Great. Question?
I think Mr. Dalzell answered this because in the write-up about Algebra 1-1 was the need to introduce a pre-algebra class for those students. And do you see over time, it says here that...
Will it disappear?
Yes, as the kids go through.
I'm not sure. We were hopeful that we could just put those kids into an Algebra 1-1 course and make it work for them. And it turns out that we have a small cohort of kids that are simply too weak to make that happen. Will we always have those kids? I bet.
Okay. I just didn't know if they had
we'll probably always have a few.
Gone K through 8 with the new program that would help.
I don't know. That's the optimistic view.
I understand the pacing issues at the Cider Mill and the Middlebrook levels, but with kindergartens, as you said, you're starting with but clean slate with them. Do you think that Math and Focus has set the standard too high for the pace the kids should be going at? I'm a little curious why at kindergarten you have pacing issues.
I think what part of it was that the fact that teachers were learning it this year.
Oh, okay.
I think that's part of it. And the chapters that we did not cover are very much chapters that are topics that we do all patterning, calendar. We covered that in other areas without specifically doing the chapters in the book, in the program. And I think next year, as we do our math, as we look forward and we do our curriculum work this summer, we'll be able to do a better job as far as pacing it.
Okay. But the kids now who are finishing up the year only haven't gotten through half of the material you thought you were going to get through when you did the original calendar in September. What will happen in the fall? Will they go, like, will the third grade or the fourth grade have the third grade book to start and advance to the fourth grade? Or how
Luckily,
are they going to catch up?
The materials that are absolutely critical for a child's success in math are front-loaded into the first half of the year, which was the whole year this year. But so so when we pick up the next year, those same topics will be covered at a higher level in the same first book.
Okay.
So what I foresee happening is that the pacing, at least at Cider Mill, will be significantly faster through the first book. And then when we hit the second book, which we haven't addressed before with the children, we will then slow down again, which is why we won't be able to do double next year what we did this year.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think some of what we learned this year is we knew this year there would need to be some gap filling, especially in the later grades, because it expected the knowledge.
Okay.
So some of that is still going to happen again next year, that we know that the fifth grade hasn't gotten fully through the book. So there is still going to be the gap filling of what they weren't able to cover in fifth grade when they did the sixth grade. But it'll be less.
So you
And Math and Focus say it's a 3-year process. The trainers were saying how it's a 3-year implementation.
So they're not concerned at all?
Not even slightly.
There is, I think the board needs to recognize that we made an ambitious decision around implementation. Many districts have decided to phase this in over time. We made the decision to implement in grades 3 through 6 right away, to just jump in. So we knew we were going to have these issues, but we felt we could work through them, we could gap fill, and over a 2 to 3 year period, we'd get to that place. So it's quite natural that the normal progression would be to go one grade level at a time. But the reality is we need to be Common Core aligned. So we were put in this position where we felt we needed to jump in. We knew we were going to have some, because it's a mastery-based approach, gaps that needed to be addressed in terms of prior learning and then anticipated learning. So that the good news is come next spring, we're going to be in a very good place in terms of student exposure to the Common Core standards.
So if I understand everything that I'm hearing correctly, let's take a fifth grader, started this year. By the time they get through 8th grade, they will be, in theory, doing the whole year's worth of work and will not have lost out on any learning by having only had a half a year this year and maybe 3/4 of a year next year.
I agree with that. Yes.
Okay.
Well, the other thing, too, to be careful about is it's hard to be judgmental about the quality of the experience. My observation in my role in traveling around to schools is this is highly rigorous work.
I'm watching the homework from home.
The depth of understanding, you're going deep into concepts, which takes time. So you may not have had the broad-based success, but the depth of understanding what was covered, how do you draw a parallel or equate the two? So it's quality learning. Quality learning experience is taking place.
Karen, did you have a question?
No, you and Chris asked my question.
No.
How are you going to catch up and when are you going to be caught up?
I actually have another question, which is for
I'm sorry, your time is up.
Sorry. For Middlebrook, for the students who are in algebra this year and geometry this year, I'm reading this and I'm like, wow, kind of like, what are the steps that are going to be taken so that they're caught up? I mean, even though they're in theory in a more advanced class, obviously there are holes in the current algebra.
There are holes in the current, and that's something that I think we even saw with the high school this year, going right into the algebra for the new one. That's something that we're going to have to keep working on and figuring out, and that's some of our summer work I know at Middlebrook is looking at where the difference between the current algebra and then the Common Core algebra and geometry, on where we do need to do some gap filling with those students.
And there is a reality with students exiting 8th grade. They'll, obviously our primary motivation in working with our students is giving them a quality experience each year and help them grow in their learning. But at the same time, their state assessments will not kick in till they're juniors. So we feel comfortable that our exiting 8th graders going into 9th grader, as 9th graders and 10th graders, freshmen and sophomore, they'll have a 2-year time period for the gap filling to occur as it relates to the Common Core. Our 7th graders, depending on 2014, which we don't know about, but assuming it doesn't happen, they have the same amount of time until they're juniors. So we know our 7th and 8th graders, despite the fact they're not Common Core aligned right now with their algebra and geometry materials, high school will catch them up by the time they get there. The more important question, to be open and honest with the board, is with our current 6th graders who are going into algebra next year. And the decisions we are, have to run into in terms of will they be 8th grade ready for Common Core alignment. So we're looking at, we're trying to look at creative approaches to our Algebra 1 instruction next year with our 7th graders to make sure they're ready as 8th graders for the Common Core aligned assessment, but also we need to make sure they're getting a quality 1 Algebra 1 experience. So it's really the 6th grade. That's the concern in response to your question, not the 7th and 8th graders.
So it's continues to be.
You picked up on a
High
key
school have to
concept,
do
though,
it,
that
but-
how do you take a traditional Algebra 1, a geometry course, and almost flip a switch and hopefully have aligned programs to the Common Core? What we anticipate, perhaps, as the evolution of textbooks catch up, that we'll be able to maybe make that work. I don't know did I hit that well, Dave?
In anticipation of these kids arriving at the high school, we've been working on the Honors Algebra 2 curriculum considerably, and it will bring them up to speed. We've left it flexible enough to take care of what needs to be done.
Any other questions?
Just how has the feedback been from the kids and parents?
I think at the high school level, the technological component the students absolutely love. So all of the book online, they have tests and quizzes online, they have manipulators online that they can use it to portray the concepts. And they seem to enjoy that. They like that part of it. There's like a homework help too, so if they're stuck, they can turn on a little video and there'll be an instructor there who'll walk them through a problem. So I think they've responded well to it. They like it.
I think the kids love the way the program is delivered. They really do. They love the workshop model. They love the technology. They love the opportunity to use the manipulatives and work together on problem solving. They aren't fazed by how challenging the program is. We have like struggle, persevere, try harder, don't give up, but don't worry, all over the place. So they've really risen to the challenge and embraced it. Parents, I think, were nervous at first. But I think we haven't, and sometimes, as Mr. Likely alluded, the parents don't understand their own child's homework. But the children don't mind, and the parents have learned not to mind either.
Good. And the teachers are not getting frustrated? Sounds like you're all very excited.
The teachers love it.
It's a great program. And just looking at the feedback from kindergarten parents have been very positive. They like seeing where their children are learning. Kindergarten with the Chicago math was not as concrete. And right now we know exactly where. The vocabulary is wonderful. Our little ones, they're always working, well, show me how. How do you know that? These are all the questioning, and these little ones are working together and really understanding fewer. More than understanding relationship in numbers, working with number lines. I mean, it's just a wonderful experience for them, and the parents have been really supportive of it. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
Well done.
I really struggled with hip hop and
You don't like the lads?
I was not good at that.
We now move on to Division of Teaching and Learning with Mr. Canty and Mr. Hepburn.
Well, as the board recognizes, we have often referenced the Wilton Public Schools vision of teaching and learning in many of the presentations that we've given the board in related areas, curriculum, etc. So we felt it important to formally bring this work to the board for their review, just to make sure you have a thorough understanding of the work. It's interesting, we just spent time talking about the approach in our mathematics program. A great deal of that conversation was around the curriculum, the what we teach, the content. The vision of teaching and learning is a summary of the how we teach. It really gets into cutting-edge instructional design models, which increasingly is becoming the focus of our instructional efforts. In that, in this age in which we live, the content is driven so extensively by technology that our teachers now are becoming less about content. Our teaching is less about content delivery and more about using content as a vehicle to develop lifelong learning skills. And that is the core tenet behind the vision of teaching and learning, is that we're trying to identify the skills that will outlive the technology, that will indeed impact the lives of our students over time. And we're working extensively now to look at instructional design models that emphasize these skills. And very often you'll hear these skills labeled as 21st century skills. We've moved away from that, quite frankly. We just try to talk about the skills that students need now. After all, it's 2013, so we can move away from that descriptor. I've asked Matt to just give a brief overview of the history behind the development of the vision. It does relate directly to the WITLS, Wilton Information Technology Learning Standards, that were developed years ago, and now this is where we land. He's also just going to talk briefly about the skills themselves.
Thank you. I do feel like this is sort of my baby because the Wilton Information Technology Literacy Standards were such a part of the work of the technology instructional leaders and the library media specialists. And what ended up happening is at the same time the Central Curriculum Council was developing their own standards, and Tim kind of came with a fresh set of eyes in the 2011-12 school year, and we kind of had a discussion about how similar the two things were, and we brought it up to the Central Curriculum Council, and they took it upon themselves as the council to have a subcommittee really work to combine them and come with something that worked. And that was a year-long effort of the subcommittee, and they actually came back and vetted that language again with the council and even back at the building level. So it really went through a lot of minor revisions and some thoughtful, almost heated discussion over language. And it landed to some degree where we started, but with some really important additions. And if you look at the end of the standards, you'll see adapted from the American Association of School Librarians with NETS, and also the work of Jonathan Costa. And all of those really formed, which may seem like insignificant, sometimes it's a word here or one substandard, but they really all added to the depth of the document itself. And I'll just briefly go through it, and then we'll entertain your questions. Or actually, Tim has some more comments about the professional development plan. Creativity and innovation. Again, the concept here is students, as you're designing a curriculum, are you giving students opportunities to think critically and create and innovate, really come up with new innovative ideas and ways of expressing yourself. communication and collaboration. I always laugh when we talk about this as a 21st century skill, because for those of us who grew up in the last century, we call that cheating, collaboration. But now it's really a part of an important skill that students have to be successful in college and really in the workforce. And communication, we always thought of, speech class and writing reports, but really it's digital communications. It's more that, if you read the substandards, it's about really interacting and learning different ways of communicating. When you talk about research and information fluency, Dr. Richards has reminded the board in some of his board chair reports about the colleges coming to us and saying this is really a growth area for all students because we live in this sea of information, and how do you teach students to analyze that and come up with a formulated plan of gathering information, understanding bias and all the nuances in such a massive amount of information, and really come up with what's valid information. Critical thinking and problem solving is always going to be a skill. It's been from the beginning of time. That's what schools do. That's what really we are about. Again, though, the little nuanced things here about understanding flexibility and coming up with different approaches, so that when I was taught long division, there was one way to do it. And if you watch the new math program that we just heard about, they don't teach you one way to do division, and it's about mathematical thinking. Global awareness and citizenship, really, if you think back to how we started the school year with Al November, really, the focus is not only are you a citizen, when I was a kid it was about citizenship, but it's really you're a citizen of the world, and that concept of do we give students the opportunity to understand that people from different places have different viewpoints. And how this all comes together is, are we creating the curriculum that really is engaging and igniting the passion of our students? And that's what these 5 strands do. So we came up with a little visual to try and capture the vision. And Tim's going to talk now about the professional development efforts and kind of where we go from here.
So along with curriculum development and performance assessment, student learning, the vision is forming one of the 3 pillars of our professional development model, which is a 3-year plan. We're just finishing the first year. As our PD relates to the vision, we've spent this year looking to try to develop shared understanding of the language that's contained within these skills that are identified in the vision. And to be honest, schools are in different places on that journey of developing shared understanding of what we're looking for in terms of the skills that are identified. Year 2, we've made the centerpiece of our work a spring tri-state visit. Up until now, the board may remember that our tri-state visits, which is part of a consortium of high-performing school districts in New Jersey, New York, and Connecticut, we've had teams of critical friends come in and take a look primarily at our content areas: social studies, science, English language arts. So this will be a new approach where we actually have Tri-State come in and look at our instructional design models, more centered on the how we teach than the what we teach. Not to suggest that prior work didn't get into that, but this is really going to have the vision as its centerpiece, which interestingly will engage the work of our entire K-12 faculty. We'll be spending the year next year engaged in a self-study where we're going to look for evidence of classroom practice that promotes these skills and try to begin to build, I would say, a collection of exemplar classroom practice, if you will, classrooms that are and teachers who are using these skills routinely. It's interesting to talk about these skills in the abstract, but what would you actually see happening in a classroom if these skills are being developed? So that's what we're going to work on. We're going to try to develop that, have our folks come in, our friends from neighboring districts come in the spring of next year, do hopefully an engaging study of our work, and then give us some feedback. As you may recall, Tri-State comes in and like the high school accreditation process, they'll give you recommendations on how you can grow in your practice. And then we'll dedicate our year 3 efforts of our PD plan as it relates to the vision and center it around the recommendations of Tri-State. So I think it's important for the board to recognize that we've identified these skills through an extensive 5-year effort. Now we really need to work on making sure that we have a shared experience across our grade levels, across our content areas, where these skills are being emphasized and developed with our students so that they really do leave the Wilton Public Schools ready for the next step in their journey. So we'd be happy to take your questions.
Thank you very much.
Well, that's the kind of presentation we like.
Don't go anywhere, Matt. Next on the agenda, we have District Technology Report. Mr. Hupfer. Yours is going to be even faster than that, right?
Come on, wake up. Please wake up. Thank you. Before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge the technology instructional leader team. You all know them. Brian Ennis, technology instructional leader from the Driscoll School. Amy Korn, technology instructional leader for the high school. Tim Lai, instructional leader for Middlebrook. And Jason Greasley, our instructional leader from Cider Mill. As we get towards the end of the report, if you have questions about specific building projects, they're here to support me. In case you have, we had 40 projects through the budget process this year. So I'll get right into it. Our Technology Advisory Committee met. We had our final meeting last week. One of the kind of highlights that would stand out, this is really our think tank for technology in the district. It's an eclectic group of community members and parents and administrators. And the highlight was that we added students for the full year this year, and it's really nice to have that student voice. They kind of remind us of our focus and our mission, and they also really push us to think about how we can move forward and think differently. You see the picture here is from the Tech Expo 4, which was held at Miller Driscoll on April 3rd. This is a student in Susan LaBarbera's middle school art class, and really doing exciting stuff. One of those things that I always worry about the expos is it going to feel like the same thing every year? And every year I'm really wowed. It's such an inspiring thing, and this was an example of one of those things where I walked in and I just what the students could do and how quickly they could do it was just amazing, and especially considering they really had only had the iPads for a few months and they had already developed it, so it's real exciting. In terms of professional learning, we kind of launched our professional learning with our keynote speaker, Alan November. Alan came in, really engaged the entire faculty, both our faculty and that of Weston, in thinking. He stayed on with all of the curriculum leaders and technology leaders right in this room after, and again, a really highly engaged discussion about the kind of that vision of teaching and learning, the how we teach, really pushed us to make changes. Another kind of highlight of our professional learning for the year was the support that we gave the iPad Cart project. What we determined early on is that we needed help, that just use the configurator, it'll be a snap. We ended up having 2.5 days of training because it was a very complicated process, and it's one of those ones we're still learning on it. But because of that, we were able really to launch the iPad Cart use K-12. And the exciting part of that was because of the support of the Wilton Education Foundation and our PTAs, we were able to get iPad Cart in all of the schools. And so that was really exciting because then this training could be immediately used by all of our technical staff. And another piece of our professional learning, that one didn't quite. We've been trying to find a way to evolve our Tech Institute. We had some decline in enrollment, and we were having trouble, especially with the way we keep losing our summers because of the weather. And we invested in Simple K-12 last year. This was our first year with it. we're expecting that our involvement with Simple K-12 is going to, it's a 2-year commitment we made with them. We're going to see more teachers apply that type of learning, that's online personalized learning, as part of our teacher evaluation plan, which is really going to need that kind of personal attention to our professional development. So we're looking forward to seeing that. We always try and improve how we communicate both with each other and with the public. To this end, the PTAs decided to use our website product, Edline, which will be renamed Blackboard Engage, which doesn't quite roll off the tongue. So next year, if you hear me referencing Blackboard Engage, it's Edline, if you want to translate that in your head. The PTAs were really pleased with it. I met with the PTA Council a couple of times this year. They had to iron out some things early on in September, October, but I regularly, every Sunday evening, I see the PTA newsletters go out, and they're really pleased at the reach that they're getting with those. Probably the most exciting thing for me is the change at the central office administration level of really opening up social media. Here you see the Wilton Public Schools Twitter feed and Facebook feed, and it gave me such joy, and I don't even remember what it was a few weeks ago, listening to this conversation in Dr. Richards' office, and then he said, "We should really tweet that out." And it felt so good to just hear that phrase. And you see that, we've only been doing this for a few months, so this is a journey for us, and we will get better at how we use social media. But it's nice to have a superintendent who's willing to jump in there and tweet and post. Another real positive outcome for the year is the efforts of our building administrators and our PTAs to support digital safety. There were programs at all 4 schools, each appropriate, from sort of a cozy setting at Miller Driscoll, which I thought mistakenly was going to be a really easygoing, pleasant conversation about, and it got to some really challenging topics very quickly because a lot of those parents have older siblings. So we had a very frank discussion. We had Assistant State's Attorney Rich Colangelo come. He did an evening presentation for the PTAs, and he also did a daytime presentation. This is the one at Middlebrook. And the Wilton High School PTSA welcomed Scott Driscoll, who came and did something really aimed at the high school students. He had a day and an evening. I went to the day program, and it was spectacular. It was kind of scary, though. He really pushes the envelope. He was a federal agent and a police officer in Glastonbury, and he has seen the worst of what can happen, and he really gave a cautionary tale. But again, the common thread among all of it is about students in a digital reputation. As I reported in the Fall Tech Report, we're really trying to come together with a formal disaster recovery plan. This is our first. What's behind our first draft is we contacted one of our vendors who we really trusted. They were a Tier 3 support vendor that's helped us out of some disasters in the past. And they looked at the Blum-Shapiro report, and they worked with us to frame out a plan that's really executable. And this is really the framework. The plan is going to be updated because we're going to be making some infrastructure upgrades over the summer, so it would be a little premature to do it now. But I had a meeting with them 2 weeks ago, and we really framed out a plan that's going to be usable at almost any level, so that if something goes wrong, you can turn to that tab and you know who to call here. And if that person's not here, you know who to call next down the line. So it'll be a very functional plan, and really pleased to be able to share that with you. This year marked our first full year of having a social networking policy. our HR director and I went and communicated with all staff members via email, and we went to staff meetings and really had an opportunity to discuss with staff members, make sure they understood the regulation and the policy. As Tim mentioned previously in the math discussion, we are just about wrapping up. I think we wrap up tomorrow at the high school with our Connecticut State Department of Education online testing pilot that's really aligned with the Common Core. So next year we'll be entering into the MOC, which is our Memorandum of Cooperation. So they're going to be giving us feedback on our level of commitment. The nice part, technology-wise, is it went off fairly, almost without a hitch. We had a couple of kids at the middle school when I was there that dropped off, but they were able, we had enough lab space that they just went to another computer, logged on, and picked up right where they left off. I don't know where the state's going. Nobody does. So it was nice to get students that opportunity to take some online testing. Social media in the classroom. I said there was a good story to tell out of the Allen November work. In addition to the November Learning Institute, which we talked about in the Fall Tech report, the high school had a nice takeaway from that meeting in here, and they really wanted to come up with a plan to launch social media as a learning tool. And so they did a really thoughtful job of the high school administrators and our instructional leader at the high school coming up with a plan for presenting it to Dr. Richards, for making sure that he was okay with opening it and training the staff. And so, what ended up happening is we were able to open up Twitter, YouTube, and Pinterest, and the teachers took that training, were able to really hit the ground running. They had been using YouTube for a while, but now it really was something that, with it open, the students can then go on in their own time in the library, go on and view the videos the teachers are putting out for them. Real positive forward motion. So what's our summer going to look like? As always, in the tech department, summer is our busiest time. This is the bump year. This is in our 4-year cycle of computers. It's the largest computer deployment. So it will be a very busy year for my staff. As you know, we'll be virtualizing our computers, so we'll have a very intense week in our server room upgrading that equipment. Another test, now this is not the Common Core state-aligned test, but this is the actual test that is supposed to be implemented in 2015. That's the Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium. It's going to be released next week, and we will have the whole summer, and I think they're going to just keep it open into the fall and then into the winter, that teachers, parents, students, administrators, anyone who wants can go onto the website and get a preview of what those tests should be like, those adaptive tests. And the kind of the most exciting part, in sort of a strange way, is we're upgrading Parent Portal, which I've talked about now for 3 years. But we're really making a significant upgrade. There's 3 things to know about the upgrade. One, we're going to be upgrading it so that all parents will log into the Parent Portal pre-K-12. Parents will log in and have to only know one password. You used to have to know one for each of your children. Now you'll just log in once with one password and you can manage your own password. But probably the most exciting piece of this, well, I guess Mary Channing would say, having the bus routes on Parent Portal is the most exciting piece. But the most exciting piece for me is that we're going to launch a new mass alert system. Ken Post, his staff, has been working with my staff to choose a vendor, and they chose Power Alert, which is part of Power School Parent Portal, and it's going to allow parents to go in and check off which alerts they want to be notified and how they want. So they can receive a text message. So if it's early dismissal, you may need to be contacted at work. They can get the contact for their work email or be texted or get a call on their cell phone. It's going to really improve our communication, and I think that are another level of really having a really powerful tool for communicating with parents about a variety of topics. So it's a real nice upgrade.
And that'll be implemented in September?
Over the summer, we're going to be notifying parents in June of the changes coming, because if you already have an account, you're going to have to create a new account, And if you're at Miller Driscoll or Cider Mill, you've never logged into Parent Portal, it'll be new for you. So we'll be using all of our tools, that our current tools, to notify parents of the change, and these things will be posted on the website, and we will be mass emailing people out before the summer, but they're going to have to know when they get that email later on in the summer, as we get towards the start of the school year, that that's really when it's going to launch.
So we'll be okay when we have that pre-Labor Day hurricane again?
Well, it's actually already in the system now. We could actually use it now, but right now we still have a contract with our old vendors, so we could contact them multiple ways. And the last part of the report, as you know, is the project supported by the budget. Essentially, there's two kinds of projects. You have your sort of building upgrade types, and then you have building projects. And with the exception of the iPad pilots, most of our building projects are not new. So if it didn't feel like a very exciting read, if it seems like you've seen mounted smartboards before, yes, it's not exciting. But as we look forward, I'm hoping to not ever have to show this chart again, because you notice that our numbers keep climbing every year, and I'm hoping that after the installation supported by the budget and maybe some more grant, that we will be at or near 100 across the district, and I won't ever have to show this chart again. In terms of our wireless, we were able to install wireless completely at the high school and in hubs at the other schools, and the tool we have allows us to really chart where the usage is, so we can add access points if we need them, and we can see which ones are getting hit the most. And it's one of those, if you build it, they will come. Obviously, by having wireless everywhere at the high school and students who carry iPhones, we get the largest amount of hits at the network here. Next would be Middlebrook, followed by Cider Mill, followed by Miller Driscoll, as you would expect. As I mentioned, we're always grateful for the support of the PTA and the foundation. And here's just one little quick plug for the PTA. There still is time to sign up for the 5K run. You don't have to run it. You can walk, I'm told. And I'm told the weather's supposed to get better by Sunday. It's Sunday, and it's at the Wilton High School track, and it's a great cause, and that money comes back to the schools. And I'll be happy to take your questions now.
Christian, start?
I have any questions.
Laura?
No, it's good.
I have two. One, somewhat related. I want to understand the durability of the iPad carts. Kids will be kids, and sometimes kids will be less than kids. We've had new school buses implemented, and sadly, there's already been some vandalism on those. So I'd like to know how the iPad carts are holding up, how the iPads themselves are holding up.
The iPads themselves are holding up great. I guess I can throw out. Have we lost any? No. At the younger grades, we've been buying a more durable protective cover. As you know, we had a sizable donation to the preschool, and we are getting a real specialized cover for them. Now, they have broken. We've had some that are deployed not as part of our regular, but for special education students who have dropped them. And we have built into our budget replacement and repair. So we're able to budget for that, and we're able to get numbers from other school districts who have, like Brookfield, so we get kind of a percentage-wise of knowing how to build that into the budget. So, so far it's been terrific. The kids really are careful with them. I watched Mr. Greasley's class, and the kids really treat it like it's a treasure. And boy, probably the most exciting Tech Advisory Committee meeting was the last one we had. The technology instructional leaders all came and showed what they did with the iPads in the classroom, and it was jaw-dropping. And the interesting piece is some of them have only had these for a few months, and I don't know how they found the apps, integrated into the curriculum, and seamlessly taught this like that. Was a testament to the kind of instructional leaders we have for technology.
Wonderful. And then the other one was relative to disaster recovery. Obviously, we had a disaster recovery strategy that leveraged the fiber optic backbone that didn't happen. Can you speak at all about how we're adapting our fiber or our disaster recovery without the fiber optic backbone?
Right now, we are going to continue the system we have, but we're going to upgrade some of the equipment so that, I won't get too terribly technical with you, but instead of just copying the data to a backup server, we're going to copy a copy of the entire server to our backup. So that way, if we need to recover, the recovery, instead of a matter of 4 hours, would be a matter of about 20 minutes.
It'll be on site.
It will be. I would like, in best case scenario, to be able to move to a site that has a generator. I know Comstock might be an option. Miller Driscoll might be an option, but Miller Driscoll, we have the building specs. But if we can get an appropriate space for that at Miller Driscoll, I think that would be a great spot. The other option is we can lease out a fiber line to a third-party company.
Are you looking into putting any of the data in the cloud?
I am not. Because of the level of security and the federal laws that we deal with our data, I would prefer that, if possible, to really come up with a system here. I'll certainly work with the specialists writing our disaster recovery plan for best practices.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Would you like to present from here, or you want to go sit from? Next, we have
Perfectly happy to present.
Karen presenting the Miller Driscoll education specifications.
As you all know, the town's capital bonded projects required a written description of the project, and that was the statement of requirements that we approved. And once the statement of requirements was accepted by the Board of Selectmen, the Selectmen adopted a statement of purpose and objectives for the project. And one of those objectives was to explore state reimbursement for the project. And one of the requirements for state reimbursement is that the state approve a set of educational specifications. So at this point, we are on the road. We are following all the steps that could lead us to getting reimbursement for this project. And that's why these have been written. And they're really very similar to the statement of requirements in that the ed specs provide the justification for the project and the detail of the form and function of the spaces and systems to be either renovated or constructed. And the document is a tool for the design team to use. It's our vision, and it will be a tool for the design team, and it will direct them through the design phases of the project. In June, we are going to issue an RFP for architectural and design services. I think that the target date for that to go out is June 10th. And the document that the Board of Education approves will be attached to that so that the architects will know what our vision of the project is. It's very similar to the statement of requirements, but there are some differences in that I talk about the purpose, the mission, and the theory of action for the district that sort of gives the overall educational umbrella and for the district. And in addition, for all the systems and spaces that are detailed in the statement of requirements, it was necessary to indicate whether or not that might be renovated space or newly constructed space, or it might be either or with the systems, if it's going to be a total replacement or an upgrade or some sort of modification of the system. So that's been included in there. And again, this is an initial draft. It is a document that I expect to change a number of times as we go through the process. And again, if we go for reimbursement, it does have to be approved by the state. And I'm told that typically the state will have comments and they will request changes. So this is, it's a living document. It's meant to be a living document. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Do we have any insight as to what the state is looking for when they...
Yes, yeah. There's a set of requirements posted online.
And this is sort of written toward that?
It's written to those guidelines, to the best of my ability.
You did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you
so much. I can't imagine.
You must be
You must be
While
looking
you're
forward to
asleep
the,
and awake and
the
everything,
restroom renovation meeting tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll be choosing colors of tile. So maybe Julie wants to come.
And you'll get to that point with non-dress where you'll be choosing colors.
Oh, that's a long
You
way.
just have a lot of writing to do.
That's a long way up.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Oh, I know we talked before about...
Naming it after you? No, we're not going to do that.
I figure since Lori wasn't here, Lori didn't do that here. We could slide that in. No, in previous conversations, we mentioned the fact that since it's going to be used as an emergency shelter, should we also factor in shower facilities? And at the time, I think it was decided that's not under our purview, that Board of Selectmen will stick that in. Is that still the case? Like,
It's a secondary emergency shelter.
Right,
Comstock will be the
right.
primary,
Okay.
and there is a shower in Comstock at this point, and the Comstock Building Committee, which has not yet been appointed, will be making the decision on how many showers and so forth will be needed for that facility.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you very much. We now move on to the financial report for April 2013. Mr. Close. I'm sorry, Ken, but most everybody's left.
I can't believe they didn't want to stick around. As of the end of April, I'm projecting a budget deficit of $796,483. As I've reported previously, the deficit is being driven by special education outplacements and contracted services expenditures. As we get closer to the end of the fiscal year, I've been able to identify a number of areas where we will achieve budget savings. These include classified salaries of about $125,000 due to leaves, staff replacement, and overtime savings. Other employee benefits of about $70,000, electricity and heating oil about $100,000 each due to decreased usage. These savings are in addition to the savings resulting from the partial spending freeze that was implemented last fall. With this information in hand, I've recommended that we selectively remove the spending freeze and use some of these funds to recapture some of the items that were frozen or that were among the final cuts to our 2013-2014 operating budget. These items include textbooks, instructional supplies, furniture, and technology. The projected special education deficit is $1,390,890. Our excess cost claim, as I've reported before, was $926,864. So far, the town has received $478,000, and the state estimates that our total reimbursement will be $675,785, which equates to a reimbursement rate of 73%. Since the anticipated excess cost reimbursement does not exceed the projected deficit, the town will be obligated to credit the Board of Education for the entire amount of the reimbursement. For the 10 months ended April 30th, health benefits expenditures were under budget by $1,870. We've been over budget all year long, and they've trended down to budget, although May so far is running high. If we do end the year over budget, the reserve account will absorb the excess, so it will not affect our ending results. I'll take any questions you have.
There was a new variance, negative variance in substitutes.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
We have a number of people out on extended medical leaves this year, so we're paying, and they have built up sick time, so we're paying sick time, so their salaries are still showing up there, but we've had to hire long-term substitutes to replace them.
Okay, thank you.
Will we get more details on some of the items that you'll be able to cover that were previously not covered because of this freeze?
Some of the things that we're recapturing?
Yes.
Certainly.
Other questions? Thank you very much. We now move on to an initial discussion of the 2014-2015 school calendar.
Good evening, all.
You don't look like Dr. Richards.
No, I don't. It's the hair color. Mine's a little lighter. No, we had received, the superintendent had received rather some initial comments from board members regarding questions regarding around the 14-15 calendar. So I wanted to go ahead and respond to those points that had been raised, and then we can go ahead and address any other questions that the board may have, if that works. Okay, great. There was an initial question about the testing window for 14-15, and if that was going to change, would it therefore be possible for us to make some changes to the March vacation? At this time, we believe that the state will have a 90-day testing window for the 14-15 school year. However, as you know, there is a lot of fluidity in the state in their decision-making and with regards to testing. And
let the record show a guffaw from the audience.
And as I might plug for my own, the teacher evaluation system. So as a result, we believe it's in the best interest of the district to not make any changes to the spring vacation until after we have had an opportunity to both experience and evaluate the new testing schedule and student tests. Any questions related to that?
No, but as we've seen, we do have the flexibility to make changes in the future if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And as was said earlier, there's a June 20th meeting, and who knows what will come of that meeting. And so for us to make grand changes at this point, I think would not be in our best interest. It would cause more concern than needed. There were questions regarding professional development days. So as a matter of information, the current teacher's contract calls for 187 teacher work days. Of those 187, 181 of those days are student days. Their contract also calls for 2 days that are non-student work days, and then 4 days are non-student days for professional development as scheduled by the Board of Education after consultation with the Teachers Association. One of the things that the administration would like to have considered for the 14-15 calendar is rescheduling the February vacation day, or February professional development day rather, and moving that day to August. So what we would like to see happen is the February 12th professional development day move to August 21st. That would make August 20th and August 21st professional development days, and August 22nd would then be a teacher work day. There was also mention of looking at reducing the total number of professional development days, perhaps by introducing delayed opening days for professional development purposes at the school.
I think the way that came across was not reduce the number, but allocate them differently. So
yes,
instead of 4 full days, 8 half days, for example.
Correct.
16 quarter days.
Right. Understood. The implications of doing such a move is at this time, the current teacher's contract requires or calls for a salary based on 187 work days. By doing something where we would start to incorporate professional development into the already 181 instructional student days, we are there at a point in time where now we are paying teachers based on 187 days of work, where they are instructing 181 days. Any change to that becomes an automatic cause for negotiations and bargaining, because we would be looking at impacting teacher workload as well as salary. So to make that kind of a change, we would have to go into negotiations with the teachers union.
We are in year 2 of the teacher's contract right now.
Correct.
Year 3 next year.
Mm-hmm.
It's a worthwhile conversation to have proactively so that the next time the contract comes up, we might be able to collectively work on it.
Absolutely. And we, as an administrative team, have discussed the idea of incorporating into the instructional workday some hours for professional development at the beginning of the day. We would like to perhaps have that opportunity in the 14-15 calendar by having 2 days where we would have delayed openings for the purposes of professional development. The benefit that we see to having the professional development incorporated into an instructional day is there's an opportunity for us to have what we already plan, as you heard the wonderful math work that has been done this year, required a great number of substitutes and required a lot of training time and out-of-classroom time for teachers. By incorporating some of that into the instructional, what would already be considered an instructional day, we could potentially reduce some of our professional development substitute teacher costs because we wouldn't need to pay for the substitutes to cover the teachers. The teachers would already be here, and therefore we might be able to reduce some of our expenditures in substitutes for professional development.
And we could therefore then perhaps reinvest some of those funds into more advanced professional development.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So for 14-15, we would propose, the administration would like to have considered that February 4th and March 18th would be 2-hour delayed openings for the purpose of professional development. I certainly do want to state probably what is the obvious, but of course by having a professional development delayed opening in February and in March, those are weather months that create the need for delayed openings as it is, just so we can have an instructional day, but still make sure that the roads are cleared and the sidewalks are cleared and people can get to work and school safely. So that's something that we certainly need to keep in mind as we look to making these changes.
It just pretty much ensures it'll be the snow days will be the 5th and the 19th.
Right. Well, we're going to get to that. So any questions regarding professional development?
Isn't
Certainly.
March the testing period?
Yeah.
Yes, and that's why, again, this would just be for one time 2-hour delay in that time frame of 90 days.
And so you could make up, if you needed to be making up testing, you
Mhm.
could do that after the students came into the building.
Certainly.
Okay.
Just, I'm going through the math in my head. This being the 14-15 school year calendar, this will be the first year of the next teacher's contract, too.
Yes. Yes. No?
13,
One more?
14 is year 2.
It's next year. Right.
14, 15 is year 3.
Correct. So we're at 1, 2, 3.
So we're in year 1 right now.
Yeah.
12, 13
You think
is year
it's the
1.
second year because we budgeted for next year.
Gotcha,
Right.
okay.
Yep, but we're actively in the first year.
Thank you. It was a mind shift.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So on to parent-teacher conference days. As we heard, there were concerns regarding parent-teacher conference days that were raised last year that created a need for us to change our calendar for 12-13, and therefore we made a reduction for 13-14. For the 14-15 school year, what we would like to propose is moving, or rescheduling rather, the days from November 20th, 21st, 24th, and 25th, and moving them up a week to November 18th, 19th, 20th, and 21st. Tentatively, the marking period would be scheduled to end at the end of October. About 5 to 10 days thereafter the end of the marking period, report cards would be due, which would put us somewhere around the 7th of November potentially. And this gives us then the opportunity to have those quality parent-teacher conferences following the teachers' ability to be able to gather all of their data and information and really give thoughtful reflection to their students and their progress and where they need to continue to grow for a successful school year.
So the 24th and the 25th would just be regular days?
Right.
Correct.
And we're looking to get it out of that Thanksgiving week.
Correct.
But then the 26th would be a
Yeah.
half day.
Correct. The day before Thanksgiving.
So that's always
The
And what is the thinking on that?
Well, we're trying to be responsive to some of the concerns that we had heard that had been expressed, that by incorporating them into the week and having it really, it ended up being an overlap. It was taking up 2 weeks of time, where parent-teacher conferences were the week of the 17th as well as the 24th.
I gotcha. Okay.
And that families felt
So
that
that's-
was too disruptive.
That's similar to what we ended up doing this year.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. And what I'd like to make a point is, as we promised last year, after the 2013-2014 parent-teacher conference days are held, the administration will review the data, attendance records, time logs, etc., and speak with building-based administrators about the reduction's impact on the parent-teacher conference experience. Based on the data review, the administration will make a recommendation, if needed, to the board to modify the 14-15 school calendar regarding parent-teacher conference days.
One of the challenges that I see in that is that it means we only have 1 full week of school in the entire month of November.
Correct.
And if we're looking for uninterrupted education time, that could be a challenge. And one way to address that might be to move the professional development day that you have on the 4th into one of those 2 weeks that are already broken up.
Well,
But
the reason we have that is it's
Never mind.
election day.
You're right. Never mind.
That's the challenge.
Never mind.
And if you were to move the conferences to the first week.
It's before the semester is over.
Right.
Correct. So
Okay.
you really
Let's
kind
just
of-
move Thanksgiving.
All right.
Chart-wise. Well, one thing is, the high school still has, they don't have teacher conference days.
Correct.
Right. So,
So
one
it's
part of our student population.
That's a very good point.
And I also think it's really important just to, if you're going to say it over and over again, those aren't boss days. I mean, the students are in school for 4 hours, which if you take away lunch and recess, that's a good amount of time.
Yeah.
There's no reason why there shouldn't be quality instruction going on.
Mhm. And then finally, makeup days. As you will see in the center of the calendar, the idea now would be that days 1 through 9 would be added to the end of the year, taking us up to June 19th for an absolute last day of school. If we were to have 10 to 14 additional days needed for makeup, we would take those out of the April vacation, starting with April 13th. We feel that it's certainly something we can go ahead and publish now. There are 2 reasons that we really want to try to make it so that we don't go beyond the 19th, even though we certainly have that time in there. Hopefully with the construction at Miller Driscoll, that would be an opportunity for the buildings to be able to start having that summer work done. And ESY typically starts after the July 4th holiday. If we end any later than June 19th, we really aren't allowing opportunities for the staff to be able to prepare themselves appropriately for having instruction to begin for those ESY students.
The only thing I might do, and it's just a long run from January with a long weekend in February, is to move that April vacation a week earlier.
The April vacation, you said? Well, if you moved it 2
Yes.
weeks earlier, you can wrap it in with Easter.
One of the things we were thinking of is we were trying to sync that to some degree with our neighboring districts. You know, as you know, we've had historic struggles trying to do a common Southern Fairfield County, but in looking at the calendars, this was the week when so many of the districts were out, and it has an impact on our staff,
Yes.
most of whom, as you know, do not live in our district, and it makes it a little bit more easy to negotiate those weeks. So it was not only trying to be in sync with neighboring districts, but of the other considerations. So that's why we had gone that week.
It'd be interesting to understand more details about that impact.
Yeah, I would think it would make sense tie in with Easter?
That does make for 3, 7, 8 solid weeks through the end of the year.
Who would do that?
I would just strongly recommend really considering the staff impact that not having a common week has with other districts.
Other districts, excuse me.
Go ahead.
Eliminated their February vacations.
That's kind of and I haven't, Molly has gathered the contracts from other districts, and it's, once again, it's some are, Darien, who would ever want to be in Darien, has a full week in February.
That's one.
I can't, it's a cheap shot, but
I can say this, that it varies.
Canaan.
There is not a uniformity in that February vacation.
New Canaan has the long weekend approach.
Might that be, instead of going through it now, might it be something you guys could share with us to help
Certainly.
us understand?
Absolutely. Yes,
what
what we
you're
can
trying
do
to
is we can let you know the week that our neighboring districts have in February and the week that they're taking in April as well.
Because there are pros and cons,
And
obviously.
It's not
Absolutely.
just the neighboring. I mean, I'd like to look at Newtown.
Sure.
Because there are a number of employees who live up
Absolutely.
there, Bethel, you know.
Absolutely. Can do that.
It does look like you're making a very concerted effort to listen, and I think that's greatly appreciated.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have one action item this evening, which is a gift to the Middlebrook School being presented by Mrs. Harris. I understand it's been wrangling with ants today.
Was yesterday or Tuesday morning?
Oh, was it?
Sorry.
I was out of town. I only got the story today.
Oh no!
What's your PTA
Chris was just
main
finished.
fundraiser?
Our PTA fundraiser now, they've changed it. It's no longer QSP, it's donations and the paper drive. The Sally Foster, I think it's Sally Foster paper.
okay.
They've changed it this year. And I'm here this evening to request your approval of a very generous donation from the Middlebrook PTA for $35,000. And once the PTA determined the amount they were going to donate, we convened an allocation committee of parents, students, and team representatives. And Maria and I happened to be there that day. And together we sat down and we looked at the list of proposals and we made decisions and had lively discussions with input from the students who really have the most experience using the enrichment activities. And the funds our criteria was that the funds were for innovative enrichment projects, speakers, new technology, or materials that directly impact student learning and will be used throughout the year. And these are things that aren't normally budgeted. So you can see the list in front of you. There are things for Shakespeareans, Birds of Prey Assembly for outside for 7th grade, examples, music in the parks, adjudication for the 8th grade, the award-winning fiction books, the Kindle Paperwhites that the students can use to access Overdrive in our library, in the Wilton Public Library, and smart boards for our 7th grade special ed and reading writing workshop classroom. So it's generous. It's just beyond generous. And we thought you'd like to see the sampling of what the committee decided that these funds should be spent on. So we would request your approval or certainly entertain any questions you may have.
Before we go to a vote on accepting it, I have to say that I got some feedback from kids that participated in the process, and it was fascinating to me to hear their perspective. And I don't know if you can speak any further on that, but it was pretty insightful.
Well, we asked for a team representative, and the team teacher brought a student or two with him or her, and they presented their respective projects. And the students were the ones who had the voice and told why they felt that we should fund these particular projects. So if you've ever wondered what it's like to be on the outside at Middlebrook and have the falcons come and watch the birds of prey assembly and hear the students describe when the birds soared right down into the audience and hear it from their perspective, it brings to life what happens at Middlebrook School. And listening to the young men talk about the value of the Music in the Parks adjudication experience for them, or to hear the students talk about why we should have world language assemblies and have outside presenters come in. It's really, you're all invited if you'd like to come next year. I'm sure the PTA and the students would love to have you. We took over, there were 30 people involved in the decision-making process, and this is the result of the decision. So it was really fun. We've been doing it this way for years, but we just thought you'd like to see the whole list for the first time, especially with this generous donation.
Any other questions?
No.
Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you so
And
much.
We'd like to express our sincere gratitude. This is wonderful.
It really is. I wish our PTA president could be with us here this evening. Unfortunately, she couldn't, and when she heard it was 9:45 on the agenda.
Tell her you beat it by 40 minutes.
I'm kidding. Thank you.
Future business. The next meeting is the June 13th meeting. It's a regular meeting at 7 p.m. here in the professional library. And after that, it's June 27th, again 7 p.m. here. Any further agenda items are, of course, on the website. As we do at the beginning and end of every meeting, we look for comments from the public. Is there anybody that would like to speak? Seeing none, I'd like to remind everybody to please email us at board.alias and motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second? All in favor? Aye.